course. Okay, that's not the reception.
Then I saw
using our direct communication. Chair of the lunch committee.
It's nothing that. I mean, there are RSC buttons. Yeah, Albert Finney who's doing Tamberlin.
Everyone's wondering what we're going to do. I'm going to check it out.
Well, John Wood, one of the liberators of whose father was one of the liberators of Bergen-Belsen.
How do you mean manuscript? Yes, he was. He was one of the very first in.
Did he talk to you about it?
Oh, yes. He didn't talk at all at the beginning. It was too traumatic. But then when he read about Holocaust Memorial, that really irked him. And he started to speak up a lot and tell me all about it. And then he started to do lectures and appear in documentaries. And now I tell the story. He read a book as well. Yes, and I'm one of the speakers for Generation to Generation, a wonderful Holocaust education charity, about 40 of us. And every January particularly, I get books out to schools and synagogues. We're all very busy in January. But, I'm just keeping it going. I hope it will prevent another. Wonderful to meet you. Very nice.
And Marla Tribich at MBU, he was in Bergen-Belsen at the same time as
Only with it must be very, very difficult. Very time, very difficult. Yes.
Still Jews left. The Jewish people will be held up as an example. Who knows, maybe our religion will teach the world and all the people in it about goodness.
If God lets me live, I'll make my voice heard. I'll go into the world to work for humankind. Yours, Anne Frank.
As Anne Frank, peer educator, we are using our voices to call for a better future.
We are working for a better future where all is significantly more positive towards people who are
Black, Christian, disabled, female, gypsy, Roma, traveller, Jewish, LGBTQ+, male, Muslim, old and refugee.
The Trust's biggest impact is that young people become more positive towards Jewish people. At a time when anti-Semitism is reaching alarming levels, we are proud to speak out in Anne Frank's name.
Free from every kind of hatred.
We are working for a better future.
Thank you.
Learn more about it.
You spoke so clearly. You can smile, it's okay.
Yeah, you can smile.
I'm very excited about this.
I'm immensely excited to meet you.
There's no time like this. I can't catch your kiss out. Which you do. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello everybody. Did you enjoy it?
Come round out the window.
Was it quite lovely? Yeah. It's always love, I think, getting up and speak. I've got to get up and speak. I don't like it.
Yes, you do.
So, I thought you were brilliant. But do you think you loved it as much as I being taught by you? Yeah. You did. Probably so. So where's your school?
Yeah, it's an early start. But these two students, Maya and Eva, will be speaking in the morning, so they're speaking in a bit later.
I was from Horizon Community College. I'm a teacher.
So where is this college?
And this is Horizon Community College in Barnsley.
Oh, in Barnsley.
In Barnsley, yeah. Okay. And this is member of my staff who's worked with the two girls over 6 years now with Anne Frank.
Thank you.
Did you realise?
And they've been to Amsterdam as well, to the Anne Frank house, and I'd like to get them over to the background next, and I think that's the end of the next year. Absolutely.
I went to the 75th anniversary.
Yes. Harrowing, yes. I'm on that way. I want to go myself, and then I kind of don't want to go. And I think it's not so important, you know, prejudices, I think, you know, the world's changing, and, you know, you're only hearing on the news today, and you know, it's there, and it's dreadful, and I think children need to understand and tolerate, you know, part of the British values, isn't it? Absolutely, absolutely.
At one point she had to flee to a neighbouring country. She's become an interpreter for the United Nations, witnessing and helping investigate numerous atrocities. And since starting a new life in Britain in 2010, she's led educational initiatives. And I'm telling you very shortly about the gentleman next to her, who's incredibly important because he himself is a survivor, Eric Hirsch. So let me tell you about Eric in just a moment. But I'm very pleased to be able to say, ladies and gentlemen, if you could be upstanding.
You're going to hear a shot.
For our guest of honour, the Royal Patron of the Anne Frank Trust UK, Her Majesty the Queen. Could everybody else please be seated? This year's national theme for Holocaust Memorial Day, which falls on Monday, is For a Better Future. I can't think of anything better. In a moment, we will all light candles and hold a minute's silence, but first, individual candles will be lit by our specially invited guests, as you can hear, whose lives have been impacted by hatred. And they would say, I hope, and you can see, they've gone on to create a better future for themselves, for their generations, and for many others around them. We are led in our act of remembrance by our guest of honour, Her Majesty the Queen.
I have to lend you mine the matches. You can put any matches. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Do I light mine now?
Thank you.
Should I?
Let me tell you about our next candle lighter. I mentioned him just a moment ago. Next to Her Majesty, Eric Hirsch, MBE. Eric was aged 11 when the Nazis invaded his home country of Poland in 1939. Most of his family were murdered. Eric survived a ghetto and several concentration camps, including Buchenwald, Auschwitz, and Theresienstadt. When liberation came in 1945, he was among the 300 young survivors brought to England for rehabilitation in a special camp on the shores of Lake Windermere. Since then, as well as building a successful career in family life, Eric has educated thousands of people by sharing his story. May I welcome Aida Horton, who I was just talking about, to light her candle. I was mentioning that I am explaining Aida as a survivor of the genocide in Bosnia, the 30th anniversary this year. And I was starting to tell you that she came to this country in 2010 and she led educational initiatives to raise awareness about genocide and wants to, I'm sure, share these experiences today. Thank you, Aaron Zimmer. I mentioned his own links to the Holocaust and his family. and who had the horrific and I'm sure very shocking experience in November on that trip to Amsterdam to see a football match, very much bringing us up to the modern day and what has been going on. I mentioned the rise in anti-Jewish sentiment and action. And Charnika, finally, not least, thank you for being here. Born and raised in Sri Lanka, Charnika and his wife, who I had the pleasure of this meeting, have lived in the UK for over 20 years. Their family business is a grocery store in Southport on Merseyside, and only 6 months ago, after that shocking murder, an attempted murder, the murder of 3 girls, attempted murder of 10 people, including 8 children, who thankfully survived, but today is the sentencing. It's a big day in Southport. There was that peaceful vigil, but then there were riots, and many of them racist in their target. They targeted the local mosque, and then they broke in and looted Charnika's shop, and his family were forced to flee, and when they returned, her livelihood was in ruins. But the community raised money to help. A builder replaced the shop windows for free, I believe. Suppliers restocked the shelves, and something came out of, something good came out of something very, very, very difficult indeed. May I now invite you to stand at your tables. For the table host, I know it's a bit dark, but you can see there's a box of matches. And I'm going to ask you to light your candle, and then we're going to hold a minute of silence to reflect on the Holocaust and on other genocides and hate crimes, to remember the victims, perhaps there'll be somebody in particular you're thinking of, and to commit ourselves to that goal, to the future of unity and peace. So I can see the candles, which is a beautiful sight, being lit all around the room. And we'll now have our silence.
So there are the pencil marks on the wallpaper where the Frank family measured Anne and her sister Margot growing in height.
Survivors of the Holocaust, survivors of genocide, ladies and gentlemen. As patron of the Anne Frank Trust UK, it's an honour and a privilege to join you to remember the victims of Shoah and of genocide since the end of the Second World War. It's also an opportunity to renew our commitment to two simple but powerful words: never forget. This year we commemorate the 80th anniversary of the death of Anne Frank in Bergen-Belsen at the age of 15. Had she lived, she would be 95. Miraculously, her father, Otto, survived. He had been one of the 7,000 people freed on the 27th of January, 1945, when the Soviet army marched under the gates of Auschwitz that bore the sign, Arbeit macht frei, work makes one free. Words, as I've just now said, have power. Those over the gates of Auschwitz represent one of the history's greatest and most evil lies. But Anne knew they were always there to offer truth, comfort, and hope. A year before she died, she made a promise in her diary: "I'll make my voice heard. I'll go out into the world and work for mankind." she was never to do so personally. However, over subsequent decades, and thanks to Otto's tireless efforts, Anne's diary has become the enduring embodiment of that promise. We can only guess what she would have made of her legacy, yet her story demonstrates that even the quietest, loneliest voice in the wilderness can change the world. That is the true power of words. Anne's life and death continue to inspire an anti-prejudice movement across the globe, including the Anne Frank Trust here in Britain. Last year, we reached 126,000 young people in this country alone, with your distinctive combination of Holocaust history, education about discrimination, and youth empowerment. I'm proud to be your patron and grateful to all of you who support the Trust in this vital work. Thank you. 5 years ago, I heard another survivor, Marian Tursky, a Polish Jew, speak at a ceremony to mark the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. During his testimony, Marian said this: "I should not be telling you about the very worst experience, the tragedy of being separated from my nearest loved ones and sensing what awaited them after the selection. I want to talk with the generation of my daughter and the generation of my grandchildren about themselves. Don't be complacent whenever you see the past being misused for current political purposes. Don't be complacent whenever any kind of minority is discriminated against. Democracy itself lies in the fact that the right of minorities must be protected. Don't be complacent, because if you become complacent, before you know it, some kind of Auschwitz will suddenly appear from nowhere and befall you and your descendants." Today more than ever, with the levels of anti-Semitism at their highest level for a generation, and disturbing rises in Islamophobia and other forms of racism and prejudice, we must heed this warning. The deadly seeds of the Holocaust were sown at first in small acts of exclusion, of aggression, and of discrimination towards those who had previously been neighbours and friends. Over a terrifying short period of time, those seeds took root through the complacency of which we can all be guilty, of turning away from injustice, of ignoring that which we know to be wrong, of thinking that someone else will do what's needed, and remaining silent. Let's unite in our commitment to take action, to speak up, and to ensure that the words "never forget" are a guiding light that charts the path towards a better, brighter, and more tolerant future for us all. As Anne wrote in her diary on the 7th of May 1944, "What is done cannot be undone, but at least one can prevent it from happening again." Thank you.